Here's your drill. So you got yourself the 18-inch gear tie. You're doing that. You're out on the putting green. You're doing some drills. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to make sure that you hit one-handed putts with your trail hand. And we're going to go this way. We're going to feel like we're doing this. We're not going to do this. We're going to push the handle. And so when we push the handle, now all of a sudden, look at the speed of that putt. Not a lot of room in that hole, and it finds it. Okay? So you get the drill on the putting green, and I would not recommend hitting that putt one-handed with on a putt more than 10 feet. I would stay at 10 feet and possibly less, maybe even 3-4 feet. But you're just one hand. Again, I've gone to this lead hand low. If you decide that you're going to go traditional like this, then you're going to feel the exact same thing. It's going to be push out of that trail hand. Again, very good speed, and it finds the hole there. And I'm going to feel my club coming in and missing that heel tee and hitting the tee that the ball is on in the center of the club face. Oh, yeah. I peppered that one. That one there was flush in the center of the club face. Spin rate on that is really good. Get out there. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I love golf balls that listen. Now let's look at all of our information here, because this is really exactly what I'm trying to get. Now I have a pitching wedge. I know when I hit my pitching wedge hard that it tends to draw a little bit, but I don't have anything to worry about over on the right-hand side unless I hit it too far. My pitching wedge isn't going to go 140 yards. It's not going to go into that bunker on the right-hand side. And I don't want to be there in the first place. I want to get this thing on the green. I want to be able to be aggressive with this shot. I don't want to be defensive. If I pull a 9-iron out here and I have to take distance off it, now all of a sudden I'm bringing back left into play. And back left into play is where there's a penalty area. And I don't want to do that. So I go with a pitching wedge. Hit this thing a little bit harder, maybe even toe it in a little bit if you want to. I don't, but you can. And now we go. So there you go. This one's even a little bit harder. Now watch what happens to this one. Right at the flag, has a little drawback. Love the shot. Never put myself in any harm's way. I actually hit that farther than my 135. I hit it 138, but it was hit so hard and had so much backspin that it spun back. Had a nice little draw to it. Gibbsy, pull up that trace of that shot. I made a great decision. Welcome to a new breed of golf. Michael Breed here inside the Morgan Franklin Transformation Center. Excited to bring you another New Breed of Golf Live. And it's one of my favorite things that I get to do during the course of the week is try to have direct interaction with you to try to help you play better golf, answer your questions. Today, we got a great show for you. We're talking about the big dog. Before we do all that, though, I got to remind you of the things that we got going on. The Blessed Poker Chip. Where is it? Right there. The Blessed Poker Chip ball markers. These things are going like hotcakes, however those go. So you can get yourself that. You can also get yourself our putter covers with the magnetic. They got a little magnetic thing here. Check that out. Look at that. Just right. No more Velcro. Done with the Velcro. And also too, oh, you want to see that one? Okay. We have that as well. If you've got the blade style, we have this. These right there. Look at that. Just clips right back. And of course, I was going to show you the hats that we've got. We got them in white. We got them in red. We got them in blue, and we got them in tan. So we got everything that you want. And speaking of what we have that you want to meet the guys behind the scenes. So why wouldn't we bring them to you? Steve Gibbs, Greg Ducharme, always one of my favorite parts of this show. What are we going to get today? Oh, wait, no, you've been rehearsing. Stop it. Stop the madness. You guys can't do that. All right. So let me tell you what we're going to do today. We're going to talk a little bit about how to hit this club a little bit farther, why you're struggling, creating greater distance. And when I say simple distance, what I'm talking about simple distance is not swinging any harder necessarily, swinging more efficiently and certainly hitting it more in the center of the club face so that that club head speed transfers into ball speed, but also too, understanding all the little nuances of getting distance out of the driver. Okay. Very important for you to understand. And one of the things that I have been doing, many of you are aware of this, with our new club that we've got, Rock Pile Golf Club, and the importance of indoor practice, using numbers, understanding numbers, and understanding how your golf swing affects the numbers so that the golf ball ends up traveling the distance that you want or greater distance. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, okay? So we got that covered. Also, too, then we're going to get to some questions that you got. Whatever things that are on your mind, doesn't have to be about the driver. It can be about anything. Whatever it is that you want to talk about, we'll get to that. Keep you updated as to what's taking place with the PGA Tour as they're across the pond in Scotland playing the Scottish Open. We've seen some good rounds. Rory McIlroy had a nice round in this opening round. 124 feet of putts made for Rory. It's exciting to see him get off to the start that he has, 64 in that opening round. And also, too, that's his best opening round of the entire 2023. So does that mean that he's going to have a great Scottish Open? Well, certainly he's off to a good start, not leading, but off to a good start. And also, too, it certainly indicates that if he can continue to do this through the course of the week, that he may be your favorite as we head into the Open Championship. So let's just talk a little bit about driver and what causes some issues with creating greater distance. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some different backswings. We're going to talk about the importance of the backswing, and then we're going to talk about the collision of the club and the ball, how that creates less or more ball speed. And then to that end, what I also want to talk with you about is how you're going to deliver the golf club into the ball. So we'll cover a little of the backswing. We'll cover a little bit of the impact position. And then also we'll talk a little bit about collisions and how differing collisions can steal speed from you with the ball or steal distance from you with the ball. So let's talk about the backswing, because in effect, this is, and I've talked about this before, Mo Norman was such a big proponent of the initial start of a golf swing called the backswing, that he would start his backswing with the club already behind the ball because he felt the takeaway was so important. And what I would say is this: there are a number of different things that take place in the backswing that steal distance from you. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to steal club head speed from you, but it will steal distance from you. Let me show you what I'm talking about. One of the things that I see people do is take the club back and roll the face open. So when you roll the face open, you can see right in that position that the club face is pointing up to the sky instead of pointing to the ground. Well, when we open up that club face, watch what happens to this. And I'll have both club head speed and ball speed in this. I'm going to spin the club face open like this. Now, I swung the club pretty hard. So let's come up to the front. Hey, bring that camera 4 up to the front here, Gibbsy, if you could. And what you're going to see here is this: that club head speed was about 103 miles an hour, but the ball only had 149 miles an hour of ball speed. Why? Well, because what I had an open club face. And so that ball is going to jump out to the right 5.2 degrees. And I end up getting a massive apex, 132 feet in the apex. And so what happens? The ball goes up into the air. It lands at about 249 and only gets out to 259 because I have a lot of backspin. I have an open club face. I have a launch to the right. A lot of things take place. Now, one of the things you might be looking at is, well, you only had side spin of 17. It's because I hit it a little on the toe. Now, what will happen to us is when we open up that club face, we're going to also lose some transference of energy into the golf ball. 103, I should be able to get that thing at least into the 153, 155 range. But because the club face is so open and the strike is out on the toe, all of a sudden that club head speed doesn't transfer into the ball speed and it ends up going 149 miles an hour. Now, that's one of the challenges that takes place. The other thing that happens to you is, and we'll talk about the club face in just a second, but the other thing that will happen is that you'll take the club away in varying manners. So one of the ways you take it away is you take the club and you let this club stay very, very low to the ground in the backswing. Okay, let me get the hats out of the way here. So this club goes this way. I call it around and up. And when you go round and up, what you end up doing is you end up opening up that club face again. So you get massive turn. You don't get a lot of width in the backswing. You lift this up. Your arms and hands, if we go face on here, your arms and hands are very close to the chest here. So you don't have a lot of width. And what ends up happening is that, again, you might swing with some club head speed, but you're not going to get a good transference into the ball speed. So this is going to go around and up, and invariably it's going to come over. So here we go. And that was so bad that the simulator didn't even want to show you what it did. So let's try that again. That was, I hit that on the top of the club, just so that you know. I hit that on the top of the club. That ball launched at probably 23 or 4 degrees. I mean, that was really bad. Let's see if we can get that. I don't know if it'll be able to do that badly again, but here we go. Yeah, so what I get is you can see that thing start way, way, way out to the right-hand side. So come on up to the front here, because I don't want you to see how far in the woods that shot is. But what's interesting is, so that one there was 101 miles an hour. So there's only a 2-mile-an-hour difference between my first one, which had 149 miles an hour of ball speed, and this one, which has 104, let's call it 143. So I lost 6 miles an hour of ball speed on that, partially because the club face was open, as I said, partially because I was around and up and across the line. So the club travels down, and I end up getting a really poor hit. Still open club face, 651 RPMs of right spin. That ball got to 120 feet off the ground. So way up in the air, because that club face is open. And now look at the launch. The launch on that is 18 degrees. So way up for a driver. What I want to launch about 11 to 14, maybe 15, depending upon the club head speed. If I have less speed, I'll need a little higher launch. If I have faster speed, I can deal with a little bit of a lower launch. And what ends up happening, again, I'm right around that 250. I carry it 240. It rolls out 9 whole yards to 250 yards. So when you start seeing your golf ball not really have a lot of roll to it, you can look at it and go, okay, well, probably had an open club face, probably had a little bit of backspin on that one, and probably because of what happens in the backswing. Again, open the club face. So now I want to go to the other option or manner with which you'll take the club back. And that is, again, as I said, one was around and up. This one is you take the club and you just come straight up into the air. So if we're in the down the line shot, the club just goes straight up into the air like this. Now we have really high hands, which is good. But again, we're very narrow, so we don't have a lot of width in the backswing. And all of a sudden, when we lose that width, angle of attack is going to start to get a little bit more aggressive, and the ball's going to launch out a little bit lower, right? So we take the club and we go like this, and now we're throwing the club down into the ball from a steep angle of attack. So now I hit that one there. Now, this is really poor. And what happens when you do this is you actually will lose club head speed, and then you'll lose a lot of different things, including the golf ball that you just hit. So what I got there was I got 97 miles an hour of club head speed. So that's, now I've lost about 4 miles an hour from the swing before, and I've lost about 6 miles an hour from the swing before that. So 3 swings before. Now, ball speed 147. So it's still got a little bit higher, pretty good contact. Honestly, like it was up. So I've had a 149, I've had a 142 or 143, and then of course this 147. So what ends up happening? Well, now you look at this key number here, the vertical launch, 8 degrees. I got an 8-degree launch. Remember, the other one was 18, so this came down 10 degrees down that way. And what did I get? I got a ball that traveled 228 yards in the air, and it rolled out to 239. So I still, not a lot of rollout, a ton of right spin. Look at all this right spin, almost 1,400 RPMs of right spin. None of it is any good. And then the backspin's at to about 31 or 3,200. So that's not going to roll very far either. But what ends up happening is we end up losing a lot of distance. And then the other thing that you want to pay attention to, and this is really important, apex at 62 feet. I typically play at about 90 to 100. That's where I play. And so when we start hitting some shots that are what we want to try to do, what you're going to start to see is club head speed is going to be right around 101 to 103 or 4. That's where I'm going to play. Ball speed will be somewhere around 150 to 155. That's around where I'm going to play. And the golf ball that I'm going to hit now all of a sudden, because of what I'm going to do with my backswing, my launch angle is going to start to get into that window that I told you about that I want. So how do we make a proper backswing? Well, one of the things that we have to do is you have to have width in the backswing. Width is one of the most important things that you can achieve. And what I can tell you is, got a little watery eye. So width to me is all related to the trail arm. So how we create this effortless speed, this greater distance is all right here in this arm. Now, let me just talk. There are a lot of people that talk about making a turn, and we have done on this show different thoughts that you can have in the backswing. One thought that a lot of people loved, and you got to go full here, was when we said, okay, I want you to feel like you're turning your knees to create that little more hip turn. That'll give you a little bit more shoulder turn, and you'll get a little bit longer swing, which will give you some distance. Great. But what I really believe and what I think about in my swing is the length of the trail arm. And if you watch Rory McIlroy hit a driver, which is awesome, really all of his clubs, but with the driver, tremendous amount of width in the backswing because his right arm doesn't bend. So when you're taking the club back, think about your trail arm and feeling like it has a push away. And when it pushes away, now all of a sudden you can see how long my arms are. That's the thing that you'll notice. But the thing that might slip by you is how much turn I get out of my chest. And the reason why is, I'm going to put this down. If I have a triangle here like this, and I don't let any arms or legs of the triangle break, my hands, if I keep my arms straight, my hands will force my chest to turn because they have to stay in front of my chest because I have a triangle that the angles between my chest and my arm, they don't change. This angle here, this angle here, this angle between my hands, they don't change. So when I go here, my chest has to turn, but I'm not thinking about turning my chest. All I'm doing is I'm moving my hands and not letting my trail arm bend. A lot of people through history have said, well, you got to make sure that the lead arm stays straight. And so everybody gets in here and they keep the lead arm straight, but the trail arm bends like crazy. And all of a sudden you don't have any width. Let's go back to that other shot. So width is going to be this. That's width. This is not width. And so if you let this arm here fold too early, it will allow this arm to fold. It will create a lot of narrowness in the swing, which will create a steepness in the delivery. And all of a sudden the ball's going to do things that we don't want it to do. So what I like to do is I like to feel, and what I like to teach is that trail arm staying really long and it forces width. So if I go into here, and I'm not going to try to swing hard, but I guarantee you that this ball is going to go farther because when I do this, now all of a sudden I have width coming into my swing. My body is going to move more efficiently and more effectively. The club won't be inside. It won't be outside. It's going to be just sort of in the window that I want in the backswing here. And so I hit that shot there. Now what I get is I get a little bit of a draw, but come on up to the front here because this is what's fun to see. So now all of a sudden, look at what happens. And I'm not even thinking about what I'm trying to do when I hit that ball. I just hit it. But pay attention to this. So clubhead speed jumps up to 103. I didn't swing hard, but it just went to 103 because I had width. And as you have that width, now all of a sudden the club has more time to gain speed. Also, too, look at the ball speed. So I go back to that other one where I had 103 in it. I had it get to about 149. This is up to 152.4. So say 152.5. My distance is all of a sudden 268. Remember, before I'm hovering at that 250. So I picked up a little bit more clubhead speed and I picked a whole lot more distance. I got a whole lot more distance. Let's go over here. I want you to look at some numbers here because this is really going to be a telltale of what we've got going on. So when you start to look at this, here's a 103, here's a 103. So these two 103s are the same. This one went 259, this one went 268. So I got 10 more yards out of that particular shot. 10 more yards out of that shot on the same clubhead speed. The ball speed is jumping up. Why? A lot of different reasons, but primarily because of how the club is being delivered to the ball, which we're going to get to in just a second. And now you start to look at some things that are going to affect distance. One, The apex is at 132. This one here's at 75. My launch was at 12 degrees, as I said before. This one open faced. Now all of a sudden it launches at 16 degrees. That's out of the window that I want. Remember, my window is going to be sort of 11, 12 to 14, 15. That's really where I want to try to play. And so all of a sudden, by not even thinking, all of a sudden I get the things that I want to get, right? Just with that width. So when you start thinking about what you're going to do to create a little bit more distance, create a little bit more club head speed, what I want you to be thinking about is this trail arm in the backswing, and specifically making sure that it stays as long as it can to what I would call past waist high. So I don't want you to feel your arm bend before your hands get to waist high. So we take the club back. If my arms are bending here, now I got a little bit of a problem. I'm going to get narrow with this. If I feel like that arm is staying straight until I'm above waist high, now I got a chance to really create some more club head speed and some more distance. Let's try this one more time here. So real width in the backswing. Oh, that was a really, really good swing. This one, I loved this. Now, watch what happens here. This is where I'm going to play. This is where I'm playing right now. So club head speed, this one here went up a half a mile an hour. So one was at 103, one was at 103.5. But look at what happened to the ball speed. The ball speed jumps up to 155. My delivery was a whole lot better on this one. And now we look at the numbers. 260 carry, 277. I'm 61 and I'm sniffing 280 with 103.5 club head speed. I'm telling you, this is available for you. You just have to do what I'm telling you to do. I promise you it's available for you. So you have that. Now, look at my vertical launch. All of a sudden I'm at 13.6. Call it 14. That's my window that I want. Where's my apex? This one's at 106. That's right around where I want to play. So the golf ball lands at 260. It rolls out nearly 20 yards, 17. So all of a sudden, my numbers are great here. This is all available for you when you start to pay attention to what's happening with this trail arm in the backswing, okay? Now, I want to get over to this other part, how we deliver the club. And the deliverance of the club is also a very, very important thing here, okay? So let me just check that. So hey, Gibbsy, just go back to 4 so that everybody can see that again. Because what I want you to look at is this number here, the backspin is at 2,200. That number that's where I want to play. Okay. Now, I want to show you as I create some steepness in this angle of attack. So when this club is now coming down, what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing very steeply into this golf ball. And Greg, I don't know whether you can pull up the information on that club in the post shot information. Go to the club analysis, and yeah, we don't really get an angle of attack in there. Okay, so what you're going to see when I do this is I'm going to bring this club down steeply. It's going to come down steeply. The ball is going to launch sub 10. What should happen is the spin rates are going to go up. And even though I have pretty good club head speed and pretty good ball speed, I'm not going to get that ball to get out to 277. Okay, so I'm going to steepen this up, and I'm going to exaggerate this. So I'm going to play the ball a little more back in my stance, stand a little bit closer. I'm going to create a steep angle of attack here, and let's see what we get. Okay, so this one here is pretty good, actually. This is not terrible. So come on up to the front here. So I lost some club head speed, obviously, because I'm not creating that width that I had in the backswing. So the club head speed drops down to about 100. But the ball speed is at 151. So I did a pretty good job of delivering whatever club head speed I had into the ball. That's about a 1.5 smash factor. So that's pretty good. I got that one in the center of the club face. And now let's look at what happened to the golf ball itself. The golf ball launched 8.4 degrees. Remember, 8.4 is going like this. I want it to be like at 12, 13, 14, coming up there like that. So now what happens from there? Well, my apex goes down. This is at 70. The one that I had before was at 106. So I basically lost almost 30% of my apex as a result of hitting down on that golf ball. And then what ends up happening? My spin rates go up. So now my spin rate on this one's at about 3,000. Remember, I was at 2,200. And what I also got was a whole lot more right spin. That's over 1,000. So there's a lot of spinning going on this ball. And when I get that, what I get is I get some curve, and that curve is taking distance away from me. And then also too, when the ball gets on the ground, now we're hitting the brakes. And so what ends up happening is I get a golf ball that flies 239, rolls out to 257. But I'm 257 and I'm in the woods on the right-hand side. So all this adds up to, and the reason why it rolls out is because it leaves at 8.4. If that had left it at, say, 16, that would have only rolled out probably 10 yards, maybe even less, maybe 9 yards. But because it launched so low and the apex was so low, that with all that backspin, with all that braking power, now all of a sudden it's still rolled out a little bit, but it never sniffs 277. That's 20 yards short. 20 yards short. Even though the ball speed was at 151, I'm 20 yards short, okay, just because of that angle of attack. Now, how do we get to a point where we deliver the club with an angle of attack that is along the ground or slightly up? So what you have to do is, and I've talked about this many times, what you have to do is you have to set your shoulders at an upward angle of attack. And that's actually going to help you in the backswing, because most times when you're getting steep, you're taking the club a little bit outside, a little bit too much up and outside. And now your arms and hands are very, very tight to you. Well, when you take your shoulders and you go like this, now all of a sudden gives you in a down the line view, what you're going to get is you're going to get this club to move a little bit more around you. Now, remember, I don't want the club going around and up. But if you're one of those people that's picking the club up into the air, set your shoulders at this tilt, and now all of a sudden this club is going to work more around you. Not that I want it to go around you, I just want it more around you for those that are taking the club too far outside. So I get in here like this, I angle this up. Now watch what happens with the deliverance of the club, and ultimately what's going to happen to the golf ball. My launch angle, this one might even go above my normal. So 13.7, say 14 would be on the high end. This is likely going to start a little bit higher than that. So here we go. So I'm going to exaggerate so you can see here. Now I'm going to still create some width with that trail arm. And now I hit that shot there. Now, this one is really quite good. Look at the carry distance on this one. And this is going to be fun. I can't wait to explain all this to you. So first things first. First, that ball went 280. So this is my longest one of the day. But what's cool is it's not my fastest ball speed. My fastest ball speed was 155. This one here is 152.4. The club head speed was pretty fast. Fastest club head speed I've had, 105. So I got 105 club head speed, but not a great contact, 152.5, but still great distance. Why? Because when I swung up, look at what happened to my backspin. My backspin came down to 1620. So now all of a sudden this thing is way up into the air. It comes down. There's not a lot of backspin, so I don't have a lot of braking power. And now this thing runs out. This thing landed at 258 and went out to 280. That's my longest run. Even though the apex was 110. It was my longest run because I didn't have a lot of backspin. And all I did was hit up on that. Greg, did you check to see if we didn't get that? Okay. So I hit up on that and I got a launch angle. Remember I told you 14 was what I was going to typically play at, that this would be above that 14. I got that one to 16. So when I launch it at 16 and I don't have a lot of backspin, I got 1600. I got two 16s, 16 launch, 1600 backspin. Now all of a sudden I got 280. And speaking of 16, as I told you, let's switch those around. I'm 61 and I got 280. I'm sniffing 300, but I don't have 119 miles an hour club head speed. I've got 105, which I've increased, which I'm going to tell you about here in a second. My point is that when you start altering those shoulders, now the club is going to be coming into the golf ball, moving in an upward direction. It'll take some spin out, which is going to add some roll for you. And it's going to give you a little launch. So that apex is going to get a little bit higher, which means you're going to get a little bit more carry distance. So as you start to think about all this, now you got a chance to create more club head speed, more ball speed without more effort. So let me go back to how you're going to be able to do this. And it's really just a couple of simple things. And one of them is not swing harder. I'm not asking you to swing harder. I'm asking you to swing better. I'm asking you to swing more intelligently, but I'm not asking you to swing any harder. You're going to get more club head speed. You're going to get more ball speed, but you're not going to swing any harder. You're not going to work any harder. Okay? So here's what you're going to do. At address, you're going to take your shoulders and you're going to tilt them up just a little bit. So if you've got a golf club with the grip end pointing towards your target, and you take those shoulders and you just tilt them up into the air just a little bit. So what I would do is say, okay, how do I get that grip so it's ear high? So I'm here like this. I've got about, I don't know, maybe 8-10 inches of club over on this side and whatever the rest is over there. And then I'm going to tilt this so that grip is about lead ear high. So that's where I am there. And when I do that, I feel like I'm looking at the back side of the golf ball. I don't feel like I'm looking on top of the ball. I feel like I'm looking at the back side of the golf ball right here. That's the first thing. We always start with pre-swing first. And then the second swing, the second thing that we're going to do in the swing is feel this width. That's going to take care of the backswing. So we've taken care of the backswing. We're making sure the club doesn't go too far in, making sure the club doesn't go too far out. Go ahead to the down the line. So too far in, around and up, too far out and narrow. We're eliminating that. And what we then are thinking about is that club is going back. I almost feel like I'm taking it right back into this Titleist shag bag. So I'm taking it back this way with that trail arm very straight. Shoulders are tilted up. Let's see if I can duplicate what I just did. Not quite. I actually overdid it because I was afraid of making a mistake there. So I want you to see what ends up happening here, because this is what live is all about, right? So I got another mile an hour club head speed on that. Got that up to 106. Ball speed got up to 155. But because my club face was open, I ended up getting more side spin. Because my club face was open, I ended up getting more backspin. So those are braking powers. And so what ends up happening is this one carries 259, but because I have all the brakes on it, it only goes out to 267. Having said all that, let's come over here because I want to show you the fun part, because here's the fun part. So we go back to where we were before, those two flaws in the backswing, too much in or too much out. Too much in, it carried 240. Too much out, we got, 249, and we got 240. So total distance or the best distance, 259 and 249, where this one here is like, say, 269. So I got 10 more yards by altering my shoulders and by altering what I'm doing with that arm. And then what I got was I got faster club head speeds and I got faster ball speeds. So club head speed over here, 106. This is 103 and 101. Ball speed, 149, 142, 155. But I'm not swinging any harder. I'm just swinging a little bit better. And when I swing a little bit better, now all of a sudden I get a lot more distance. All right. Now let me hit one the way I hit one. Because what I'm doing is, in effect, the exact same thing that I'm advising you to do, with the exception of tilting those shoulders dramatically up into the air. I don't do that. My shoulders, because of the way I hold the club, I don't have to think about that. It just happens. Okay. So I get in here. Shoulders are tilted. You can see my left shoulder is just a little bit higher than my right shoulder. Now I get into my thought, which is that trail arm. Let's see what we can get here. So fast that Sim didn't even pick it up. Gibbsy, good job. I know. It happens. Operator error right there. I didn't check to make sure it was in the green. All right, here we go. Same thing again. Not worrying about that shoulder. Just worrying about the trail arm. Carrying that through. So there we go. Now, this was not a great swing. Actually, one of my worst motions that I've made, okay? But I want you to see what ended up happening on that shot. Not great. I only got 100 miles an hour club head speed there. Only got 150 miles an hour ball speed. Not bad collision. Not a bad smash factor. But I got that thing out to 272. Okay? Carried at about 246. but got it out there to 272. That's what I get on a bad shot. That's what you're going to get. Remember, go back to the very beginning. 250 is what I was getting. 260 I got on one. That's 272. I can play a lot of really good golf 262 or 272 yards off of the tee. So when I'm playing it at 270, I'm really, really happy. Like, that works for me. Okay. And so what I'm telling you is this: you want to generate a little bit more distance in that golf ball. You got to think about the width. You got to think about the direction that the club is going in the backswing. Make sure you're not going around and up. Make sure you're not taking it outside. Feel that push away. That's going to let you use the body more efficiently, which is going to give you added club head speed. And then make sure that when the club is coming into the ball, that it's on a slight motion away from the ground. I don't want you to feel like you're hitting down into that golf ball. I want you to feel like you're hitting along the ground or slightly up. And when you start to do that, your numbers are going to go up. Your effort is going to go down. Your effort will go down. You won't feel so exhausted at the end of the round. And you're going to have a lot less distance coming into those greens. You're going to play from a lot closer to the hole. When you do that, you're going to start shooting lower scores. Okay. All right, Gregory, let's open it up to everybody here and see what they got on their minds.
All right. First from Andrew. Hi, could you talk about driver heel hits, please? My confidence with the driver is rock bottom, so I hardly use it now. I would love to get some driver distance back, please.
Okay, so this is a good one because this driver heel hits, we're not talking about club head speed at this point. What we're talking about is ball speed. And ball speed is being stolen because we don't have the contact point where we want the contact point to be. So what I like to do when I have that is this. There's two things. One, I like to create gates. So I put one tee there and I put one tee right there. So there's a gate. That's a very, very tight gate. I'm going to narrow that up a little bit. I'm going to make that like that. Okay. So if you get, I don't know if you got a 7 that you can creep in down low. That's perfect. So you can see right there. So what I have to do is I have to be able to take this club and make it go through this gate. This is a wonderful drill to help you improve ball contact. So you start out making very small swings. Go face on here if you would, Gibbsy. So very small swings like this. Get through the gate. Then what we do is we start making longer swings. And here I'm still focusing now on that trail arm. So here and there. And then we start making longer swings. And you make longer swings. Then we start making faster swings. And then what we do, when you get to where you're confident, is you put a ball in there. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to swing through this, and I'm not going to swing hard, but I'm going to swing full. So this is what I call 100% full at about 50% speed. Okay? So 100 full, 50%. Now, what you can see is those two tees are still in the ground. They haven't moved, which means that as that club went through, I probably got that in the center of the club face. Okay, so a wonderful drill for you. And then after you've done that, you're going to get a feel. What am I doing to do that? Well, I feel like when I'm swinging through that I'm keeping my chest in the shot a little bit more. I'm not coming out of it. The club face isn't quite as open. That's one of the things that you're going to feel. Now, let me tell you another thing that would create heel hits, okay? Heel hits to me are going to come from a club face in the backswing opening up. So when you take the club back and you spin the face open and you don't time the face being open, you can hit it in the heel. And what will happen with people that do that with a driver is you can occasionally even hit shanks with your irons as a result of that same swing. It wouldn't surprise me if with your irons you were getting a little bit of a shank. And if that is the case, then what I want you to do is this. I want you, when you take the club back, feel the length of that trail arm, but I also want you to have an awareness of where your right palm or trail palm is. I want that trail palm to point to the ground. If I take the club back, long arm, but palm pointing over to camera 2 here, Now, all of a sudden, my club face is going to be open. What I want to do is I want to feel like my palm is pointing down to the ground. So I have a long arm palm to the ground, and now all of a sudden my club face is in a better spot. And when I take that back, now all of a sudden, and I'm going to hit one here and see if we can get a read on this one. Greg, I'm going to try to see if this will capture the impact point, whether it's in the center or towards the toe or towards the heel. Okay, so I'm going to be in here like this. I'm really focusing on keeping that club face down to the ground, almost facing the ground of the ball by having my trail palm pointing down to the ground or on top of the lead palm right here. So now we go. Okay, so it didn't capture it. So let's reboot the sim because we're having a little bit of problem with the sim. But the point is that drill, understanding how to get that club face from opening up too much. Now all of a sudden what we're gonna end up getting is we're gonna get more centered face. See, what happens when you take the club back and you fan the face open is you minimize the area that's available to hit the ball into. And because the heel is ahead of the toe, well, that's obvious. That's where you're gonna hit it. You're going to hit it right in here. And that's why I said before about the shank. If we spin that club face open and we get the contact point to be in the heel with an iron, it's going to lead to a shank. And so what we want to do is we want to take that club face back, and we want to feel like the club face is continuing to point to the golf ball as it works into the backswing. When that club face now opens up and starts looking to the side of it, that's when we start to run into some problems. And that's when we start losing distance. That's when we start losing accuracy. And that's when we start losing, most of all, confidence. So in order to get that confidence, what I need you to do, get control over that club face. Those are the two things that I would say for you. Okay. All right, Gregory.
Okay. This one is from Lee. I was chasing club head speed with my driver for a long time, but discovered hitting the center of the face is more important for distance. Do you have any additional drills in hitting the center? I know you just talked about the gate drill.
Yeah. So there are a lot of things that will help you with hitting the ball a little bit more in the center of the club face. One of the things that I am a big fan of is focusing on what's going on with my chest. So, you know, I think you're going to find this interesting. Okay. So I hear this so many times, particularly from really, really like professional athletes that I'll coach. They say, Michael, the ball isn't moving. How do I have such a difficult time hitting it? I was giving a lesson to Jimmy Rollins years and years and years ago. And he said this, he literally said to me, Michael, I don't understand. I can hit a ball that's curving. I can hit a ball that's knuckling. Played for the Phillies, obviously. I can hit a ball that's moving all over the place. This thing isn't moving. I can't hit it. Why can't I hit it? And my response is because you're making it move. And so what I want you to imagine, go down the line here if you would, Gibbsy. What I want you to imagine is this. I have a certain distance that my chest is from the ball here. It's just a little bit longer than this driver. If I take my chest and I move it away this way, the space between the grip cap and my chest has gotten bigger. Well, if that gets bigger, then what I've done is I've moved the ball. The ball is actually moved away from me right now. I've moved it away. And when I move it away, because my arms aren't going to get any longer in the swing, and because the club shaft isn't going to get any longer in the swing, I now have to figure out how to accommodate that. And so what I do is I lift my arms and hands up. And once you lift your arms and hands up, now you alter the path and you alter the face. And when you alter the path and the face, now you alter the impact point. So what I like to do to try to improve my impact on the club and the ball is feel like my chest, when I come through, is at the same height off the ground. So if I get set up like this, the center of my chest is roughly the height of this driver right here. When I swing, I want to keep it there, and I want to keep it there again. I don't want this to happen. And that's the biggest problem. Like if you play and your chest is moving away from the golf ball, you're going to have a terrible contact, just the way it is. You're going to have inconsistent contact. One time you might hit it pretty good. One time you're going to hit it like, you know what? And then when that happens, now you go into a full breakdown of what am I doing wrong? And then you start listening to people in your cart, people that are a couple of fairways over, people that are right next to you on the range. If you're on the range, you listen to anybody. Don't do that. just understand this, that the distance that your sternum is away from the ball and away from the ground, you want to keep it the same. So if I get in here like this, and I feel like my sternum is staying at the same level through the whole swing here, I'm going to get a very, very consistent strike. Now, I wasn't even trying on that one. And that one there flew out to about, well, it ended up about 258 yards. And I didn't even try. The club head speed was 97.7, but the ball speed was 143. So that's a nice collision. It tells you I got it in the center of the face or near the center of the face, maybe just a little bit off the center of the face. And I didn't even try. But what I did do was I kept my chest the same distance away from the golf ball and the same distance away from the ground. And then I made my rotation around that, and I got a shot that was in the relative center of the club face. And ultimately, I got a very good collision. Those numbers are really good. Launch angles are good. Spin rates are good. Carry distance is good. All of it is good. So that's what I would ask you to do. Think about where your chest is. And one of the things that I like to do when I'm teaching, I have a little tennis ball, and you just put this tennis ball right here, and you make sure that that tennis ball stays at the same height. Now, it's not going to, but it feels like it, because when you turn your chest, there'll be a slight raise up. But I'm saying relatively. So it's right here, it stays right here, it stays right here, and it goes right, and it doesn't really move up and down like an elevator. And that's when you're going to start to get your contact back. That would be another drill I would give you. Okay?
This one from EL Cap. I generally tee it up a little low with the driver, and anytime I try to tee it higher to launch it more, I end up with a hook. Do you have any thoughts on why this might be?
Yeah, so one of the things that's going to happen when you tee it up a little higher is you're going to strike it a little bit higher in the club face. And when you strike a little higher in the club face, that's actually going to help you with a hook. So if I'm playing a hole where I need to draw the ball, I actually intentionally will tee it up a little bit higher. And when I want to cut it, I'll tee it a little bit lower. What I like to do, and Gibbsy, what you could do if you would, is just get a close-up of the golf ball right here. And you had that shot before, which is great. So camera 7. Yeah. So what I like to do is I like to see about half the golf ball above the crown of the club. Now, because the angle of the camera, it looks like the whole golf ball is above the crown. It's not. It's about, it's half of it. That's the way I have done it for years. So if I want just a straight shot, what I do is I find the height that works for me, which is half of the ball above the crown. Now, here's what I can tell you. Tiger tees his ball a little bit lower. There are players that tee the ball a little bit higher. And there are players like me who move the tee height around depending upon the shot shape that they're trying to create. And so what I would tell you is don't think that there's anything wrong with what you do. Just try to find the height that allows you to hit a draw, not a hook, which is probably going to be a little bit higher than you normally tee it, but not quite as high as you tee it when you're hitting those hooks. I know it sounds like it's minuscule, and it is, but that's because the precision that's required. Okay. Don't think that everybody has to tee the ball up at the exact same height either. It doesn't work like that. There are players that tee it low, and there are players that tee it a little bit higher, and that's swing related. I wouldn't necessarily mess around with that unless you wanted to try to mess around with different shot shapes. Okay.
This one from Jonathan. Can you pause at the top to show again what that width really looks like?
Yeah, I can do that. So, so this would be face on, Gibbsy. So when we take the club back, I feel that push, and then up here there's a hinge. And now what you can see is that my hands are away from my ear, and specifically my trail elbow has about a 90-degree angle in the bend. I don't want the arm, this, to have a very, very narrow angle. I want it to have a wide angle. So that's really what you're looking for. So when you take the club back, as you have this length, now all of a sudden, this angle right here is what you're paying attention to. And I love looking at that particular angle when I'm looking at width of golf swings, right? So if I have a very narrow angle right here, my hands are going to be close. My hands will be close to the trail shoulder. My hands will be close to my chest, and they'll be low. They'll be underneath the height of my head. When I take the club back, if I have really long arms, now what you're going to see is There's about a 45 or a 90-degree angle there in that right arm. And now my hands are going to be up around the top of my head here. That's one of the things that you're going to see out of John Rahm's golf swing. So we go back here like this, feel that width up there like that. Let's see if we can get one here with a little bit of width and a little bit of power. Too fast. Sim didn't get it again. It's just happening. I'm getting too beast. Right there. There it is. Sun's out, guns out. Okay, go ahead, Gregory.
All right. This one from Andy. Do you have any idea why 30% of my drives go suddenly 20 yards farther than they normally do?
So 1/3 of your drives are going farther than
Average.
Than the average. Yep. And what that means is 2/3 of your drives aren't going as far as you could hit them. That's the way I look at it, right? I'm looking at it like, okay, you have aspiration. 1/3 of your tee shots are going the distance that you should hit it, and 2/3 of them aren't going the distance that you want to hit them. Now, why does that happen? Well, one of the things that I would be charting is when it happens. Okay, when it happens, is it you're hitting at the start of your round, you're hitting your tee shots exactly the way that you want, and then all of a sudden late in the round you start losing distance? Well, that would be flexibility. We have Chris Finn on the show all the time on A New Breed of Golf on Sirius XM. And we talk often about what the body can and can't do. And so when you come out, you might have a little flexibility, and then you lose it as the round goes. Maybe you're playing in a cart and you do a lot of sitting, and all of a sudden you freeze the body up. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you come out and you don't have the club head speed that you want because your body is not warmed up the way it should be warmed up. And later in the round, you start gaining some distance. So you got to look at when it takes place. Also, too, does it take place based on score? This is another thing. Like when you're playing really well, all of a sudden you're hitting it farther, or when you're playing not so well, you're hitting it a little bit farther because you don't care. Because grip pressure can have something to do with this. If you grip it a little bit too tight or you grip it a little too loose, now all of a sudden things can happen from that. But what I would say as a rule is this. This is like one blanket rule, never having seen you make a swing. Let's go to a down the line shot. What I notice is this. Players that bend over too much, they cut down on the amount of rotation that the body can have. So Gibbsy, you're going to need a split screen here, but you can see right now I'm bent over quite a bit. Now, if I go from here, bent over quite a bit, and I try to turn max, that's about as max as I can get. Because I bent over so much, my body is restricted, and I can't move as much. And so what I would do, and what I have worked on a lot, is this. Now you can just go down the line. What I do is I look at how I see the target. So when I'm bent over too much, the target almost looks like it's on an angle to my eyes. My target, when I'm set up properly, I'm almost looking at it like I was dead straight tall, like this. And now my eyes are parallel to the ground. So when I get set up, if I'm the right distance to the ball and the right address position, when I look up at the target, the ground is level. When I bend over too much and I look up, the ground is tilted. It feels like the high side is the right side. It's tilting down towards me. And so I have a very keen understanding of my weight distribution based on how I see the target. And what I would do is I would experiment when you're set into the positions that you want. How do you see the target? And when you hit the ball, the distance, that 1/3 distance that's going farther than your other 2/3 tee shots, I would check your distance to the ball. Now, there's another way for you to check it, and that's this. I look at or feel what I'm doing in my feet. So if I'm bent over too much, go ahead down the line if you would, Gibbsy. All of a sudden now, if you look at where my rear is right here, it's very close to my heels. When I get set up properly and I'm of the height that I want, now what I get out of where my rear is, if I come down, it's about 4 to 6 inches behind my heels. I learned this one from Daryl Kessner, one of the great coaches in the metropolitan area up here where I live. And he was a stickler to this. 4 to 6 inches, 4 to 6 inches. That's what you want where your rear relative to the heels. And so I pay very close attention to that. I feel like I have the weight now balanced in the arches of my feet, not out on the balls of my feet. And now when I'm in here, now my body can move properly. And all of a sudden, what I get is I get a golf ball that starts down the line the way I want it to start down the line, has a little bit of cut to it, and I'm happy with the shot. So I pay very, very close attention to weight distribution in my feet and how I'm visualizing that, how I'm visualizing the target there. Okay. So what I would suggest is do that, and you'll start to realize that maybe what's happening is there's something going on with your posture and your flexibility. And maybe it has to do with tension. Maybe it has to do with some of those other things I talked about at the very beginning. But I would pay attention to those and make some notes on it. Where did it happen? And as you start, this is, again, not that you asked this question, but this is something I've been harping on for a long, long time. The journal, got to keep a journal. That journal is like having a coach with you, and you're going to start to be able to detect some things. You know what? I stood over here, I hit this really big tee shot, and this is what I noticed. Or I was wearing these shoes. This is what, believe me, there's so many different things that go on in playing exceptional golf and playing your best golf. And it's more awareness, believe it or not, than it is anything else. You got to find the things that are in there, and it's all in there. You got to find it. And when you find it, now you'll be able to solve your problems and get that 1/3 to be 2/3 or maybe even 3/4 of the time. Okay.
All right. This is from Cubbies Win 06. Do you have any drills that could help me from getting stuck on the downswing and blocking it right? It goes about 260 with no slice or fade, just a straight block.
Yeah. This is my favorite drill. I actually, you know what, Greg, I'm going to do this drill because I love this drill. I'm going to do this drill with a 6-iron. It's my favorite drill.
Favorite drill with your favorite club?
My favorite club. Although I don't have a favorite club, but it's my favorite club. So here's what I like to do. I like to set up with the ball outside of my foot right there. Now go down the line if you would, Gibbsy. Now what I like to do is I like to set up with the golf ball in the hosel of the golf club. So it's inside the strike line. So I would be here. You can see how that ball is in the hosel. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing. Go ahead, face on again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing and I'm going to hit that ball. That's going to force me to let my upper body move low, open, and towards the target. So when I go here, what I pay attention to is making sure that this golf ball doesn't hook. I let it fade. I let it start left and fade. So I get in here like this. Ball's on the hosel. And now I hit that shot there. Now, is there a trace on that one, Gregory? Can you put a trace on that one? Great. So what you're going to see on that trace, and Gibbsy, come on up 4 into the corner here. And what you're going to see is this. You're going to see that the golf ball, that launched at 20.3 degrees. So that's a little higher than I normally launch it with a 6-iron. But you're going to see in the spin 1,200 RPMs of right spin there. Okay? So I got that ball to curve. Pull up the shot if you could. And what you're going to see out of that shot right there is it started out to the left-hand side, and then it moved back to the right. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to record a swing with this same drill, and I'm going to show you how it gets you out of being stuck. So here we go again. So now it starts out to the left, travels over to the right-hand side. Now, watch what happens here. So here's the shaft plane at address. Okay. Now, as a rule, if the golf club is underneath this plane, I'm going to be stuck, and it's going to pull. It's going to push to the right-hand side for the right-handed golfer. When the head of the golf club is on this side of that shaft plane line, now I'm going to pull the ball, which is exactly what I did there. Gibbsy, could you pull that? You could see how that started to the left and then it curved over to the right-hand side. Now, let's come back over here and watch what happens with the swing. So the club goes back, pretty much stays on that line just the way I want. Now, when I start to come down, watch how the head of the golf club is on top, on top, on top. It's never underneath there. So I'm never stuck. Right now, I am not stuck. I'm unstuck because my upper body is moving forward and I'm rotating open. So what you're going to see when I get into the strike here is the club is going to get right back onto the shaft plane. But now what I want you to look at is look at how much body rotation that I have here. So a lot of body rotation has taken place. And that body rotation also with the tilting of my shoulder. So let's go face on here. Let me get this off. So when I take my shoulders and I tilt them like this, so this trail shoulder stays high, it chucks my arms out on top. So go down the line. So now my arms are out on top, no longer stuck. And now the club comes right down on the golf ball. So what I do is I get a feeling of my upper body going forward and low, left shoulder forward and low, and also then two around. So now I put the ball back into a normal position. And now I'm going to do exactly what I felt like I did right there. And what I get is I get a golf ball now that starts out to the pull side. Remember the conversation, the question was everything I hit is starting out to the push side. Well, now all of a sudden, this one doesn't start out to the pull side. It actually starts out, to the push side. It actually starts out, go ahead, pull it full, Gibbsy. It actually starts out to the pull side. And so what happens is we start hitting some cuts. And what I would suggest doing to get out of getting stuck is start hitting some cuts. And what you're going to do is you're going to do that drill and you're going to start getting comfortable with your upper body moving forward and open. And that's what I think about, forward and open. And when you get forward and open, now all of a sudden you're going to launch that ball a little bit lower. It's going to start to the pull side. It's going to have a little bit of a fall back to the target. And you're probably going to see some increased distance. You'll also see a flatter trajectory. That apex is going to come down. That apex was at 64 feet. That apex comes down because I'm overdoing what I wanted to do. And so all of a sudden, the delivery of the golf club has less loft. The launch angle is 13.2 degrees. So very, very low for 6 iron. Remember, the other one was at 20. And so as you start to do this, you get unstuck. You'll get stuck because your lower body is going forward. Your upper body is hanging back. The trail shoulder is going low. The club is underneath, and now you're pinned, which is why you got to do that drill to keep the shoulders doing the opposite. High right shoulder or high trail shoulder instead of a low trail shoulder. That's how you get unstuck from stuck. All right.
Okay. From Augustine, do you see other students hit the ground first when they tilt their shoulders?
Okay. So we're back to a driver here.
Yep.
So, I do, but it doesn't come from tilting the shoulders at address. It comes from seesawing the shoulders through the swing. Okay. So what that means is this. This is very, very similar to what we just talked about. So what I get in here, if I have my trail shoulder going down back towards my trail hip or knee, now all of a sudden what's going to happen is the club is going to bounce into that ball, or it's going to hit the ground first. And what you have to do is you have to remember, and again, this is very difficult because it's in like a third dimension here. This shoulder, the trail shoulder, is going to be it's at its highest point at the top of the backswing. This is the highest point that the trail shoulder will get at the top of the backswing. And then from that, it actually is traveling down. So this trail shoulder is going down. But now face on, it doesn't go back. It goes forward. So if I'm bouncing into the ball, my trail shoulder is going down like it's supposed to, but it's going back like it's not supposed to. And so what it does is it goes straight down. It's literally, the shoulder is going straight down the line instead of going closer to the ball. So that trail shoulder, go down the line there, Gibbsy. This trail shoulder is going down, but it's also going towards the ball. It doesn't go that way. That's never getting closer to the ball. That shoulder basically just went down. It's got to go forward and down. So if I get in here and I move that trail shoulder forward, don't think about going down because it'll stay down because you don't lift your body up, but just move it forward, you'll get out of the bounce. So we get in there like this. I'm going to give you a trail shoulder forward right here. That's what we call paprika. That one there Come on up here. Now, again, I'm not thinking about what I like to think about, okay? I like to think about, well, I want my right arm to be a little bit longer. All I'm doing is I'm just thinking about trail shoulder going forward there, and I'm back up to 103, and I'm back up to 155 miles an hour, and I'm back up to 170 without even thinking. But what happened was I didn't hit the ground before I hit the ball. I hit the ground, never with the driver. I hit the ball always. And the way you do it is by making sure that trail shoulder is going forward. You don't need to think about it going down. You need to think about it going forward, okay? And then that other drill that I talked about before with that ball outside the lead foot and inside the strike line, that drill also, too, will help you understand how to get the body to move rotationally forward, okay? All right, here we go.
Okay, this one is from Deepak in India. I would like to
Awesome.
know the main cause for a slice ball.
Okay. First of all, Deepak, thank you so much for joining us. This is awesome. For all of you that aren't in India and you are watching wherever you are in the world, understand that there's a gentleman in India who has such love for the game of golf that he's tuning in right when we are too. It's awesome. So I appreciate it. I don't take it lightly. I mean, I tell you, it's flattering. It's just amazing. Okay. Now, what causes a slice? What causes did he say a slice ball?
Yes.
Okay, the slice ball causes because the club face is open. So if I take the club face, go ahead and get like a 5, get a 5 low shot. If I take the club face and I open up the club face, you can see the club face right there. I can see the heel. Now I'm going to hit this shot with this heel in that position right there. And watch this thing. This thing is going into the trees, or at least into the rough on the right-hand side. That's because I had the club face in an open position. Now, what is the thing that we can do to get that slice out? Grip it differently. So what I like to say is this. If the ball's going to the right, turn your hands to the right. Doesn't matter whether you're left or right-handed. If you turn your hands to the right, now all of a sudden the ball's going to go to the left. So let me get my driver. I mean, a tee and a ball. If I want to get rid of the ball going to the right, now I'm going to turn my hands to the right, which is going to take control of the club face. And the club face is going to be now to the left. So this one here, so I go like that. You can see how much I've turned that to the left. That's a great shot, Gibbsy. Now pull out and let's hit this thing and let's see where this goes. Greg, where do you think this is going to go?
I think it's going to go left.
You think it's going to go left? Okay, let's see if you're right. Oh, look at that. You're right. So look at this thing twist over to the left-hand side now. Now, I didn't even hit this solidly. Ooh, we skated by that. I didn't even hit that solidly. It didn't have the apex that I wanted, had a low launch angle. Let's come on up here and look at some numbers, because this is what happens. When you take that club face and you shut it down, you automatically are going to get left spin. That's what that L right there is. So side spin L, that L is left. So that ball spun to the left. Now, go back, Gibbsy, and pull this. There you go. So you see that ball is low, and it's going to the left. It twists to the left. What you'll also notice is it started to the left. Why did it start to the left? Because the club face is aiming to the left. So I get a low launch, I get a left spin, I get a low apex, and I get a whole lot of roll. This one here, almost 25 yards of roll. Why? Because I don't have a lot of backspin, and I have a low apex. So low apex, low backspin means added roll, and I'm no longer on the right. So what I would tell you is this: take that club, alter your grip so that club face is a little bit now closed at address, and you'll start hitting shots that'll go straight or even to the left-hand side. Okay. And thank you so much for joining us here. Deepak. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us from India. It means a great deal. All right. Let's get a couple more.
Okay, this from Jay. When your wrists hinge at the top, is that a conscious move, or are your wrists just hinging from the momentum of the club?
It's just hinging from the momentum of the club. I mean, I'm not thinking about hinging my wrists. If anything, I'm thinking about not hinging my wrists. I think one of the things that really creates a big problem, and back to Deepak's question, a right shot or an open club face is an overhinging of the wrists. So if there's anything going on with the wrists, I'm trying to take wrist hinge out. I'm not trying to add wrist hinge into the shot. And one of the things that you need to know if we go down the line here is this. There's an angle that's formed between my arms and the club shaft right here. You can see that angle right there. Now, if I take that angle, good shot. Now, Gibbsy, go face on. If I take that angle and I bring it up here, now all of a sudden that's the angle. That's the same angle that I had at address, but now it's up here and it looks like I've hinged the wrist. And now if I have just a little bit of momentum, now it goes to there, not a lot. And now all of a sudden I almost have a 90-degree angle at the top in the hinge. So at address, there's about a 45-degree angle in a proper address position. There's about a 45-degree angle that is created in the hinging. You might call it a 135-degree angle. I call it 45, right? But you can see that if there was a line coming straight off here, the arm would be right in the middle of that line. And so when I take that angle that I have at address and I throw it into a backswing with a little bit of momentum, now all of a sudden I get to almost 90 degrees. And I don't really think about trying to hinge the club. Now, there are times where I try to hinge it and I want more hinging, knowing that it's going to open the club face. One of the things where I'm gonna add a little more hinge is if I'm in a bunker. I want more loft in the bunker. I want the face of the club to open up in the bunker. So I'll purposefully hinge it in a bunker. And if I'm hitting a flop shot, I want to hinge it a little bit more as well because I want that club face to get open. So there are times where I want to think about hinging, but as a rule, I don't do that. I grab the club at address, I set it up so I've got some hinge, and then when I take the club back, I just let it just kind of go. And wherever the hinge is, and I don't really think much about it. Okay. All right.
Okay. This is from Ritz. Using your excellent video tip on up, down, up with my driver, that link is actually in the description of this video too, if you want to check that out. I'm able to get more distance with more pop to the strike. However, I get the occasional pop-up off the tee. How do I avoid that ugly pop-up?
Well, the ugly pop-up is the mistiming of the second up. So if you go up and you go down and then you don't come up again, now you're driving this thing into the ground, you'll get a pop-up. And so that you're just missing the up. You got to up a little bit early, but that also is just repetition. And it's like anything else. Skill acquisition takes some time. And so what you have to do is you have to give yourself some time. And with that, it just means that there's going to be a period. It's like percentages. There's a period of time where the percentages are low, and there's a period of time when the percentages are high. And when I mean percentages, I'm talking about percentages for success. So you might be now at a 70% success rate. We're not ever going to be 100%, but we can get into the 90s and maybe even to the mid 90s of success. And what happens is that it's an evolution. So if you're at 70%, it's great. It just means you got to keep working on it until you can get to where you're like 90%. And then you start to understand exactly when that second up is taking place. Okay. All right. I can't thank you all enough. I mean this. I love this. We've got a nice announcement, by the way, coming here pretty soon of a partner that has joined us for a New Breed of Golf live, which is great for us. And we're going to continue to do that so that you can join us and it's not going to cost any money. It's a passion of mine to be able to help people play better golf. We are the only show that is a live show every single week at a specific time to help you play better golf that you can be interactive with. The only one that's live. So we continue to do this. Obviously, it costs money to do this. That makes clear sense. And we're going to continue to do it. And thanks to our partners that are going to, are joining here shortly. So very appreciative of that. And also very appreciative of what you do. And clearly very appreciative of the two gentlemen that I get to introduce you to at the start of the show and at the end of the show, Steve Gibbs and of course, Greg Ducharme, who we love very much and appreciate all their hard work. And they're back again. So they got one in a row. They got one in a row. We got one in a row there. We're on fire. No doubt about it. But we're back to the usual. It's a ground ball to second place. And it goes through Tuffle's legs. So there you are. But I appreciate those guys. And a quick reminder, look, be part of our community. We've got those poker chips that we're doing, $6 for the chips. they've been very, very popular, and people continue to purchase them. We continue to get them. So not expensive. And of course, you can see the different colors there. We also have the hats, and we have the putter covers. So if you're so inclined, and we continue to get those as part of it, as part of our community as well. So make sure that you reach out to us. Just send an email to us at anewbreedofgolf@michaelbreed.com. And then the other thing that I'm going to ask you to do, tell your friends about what we're doing here. We are trying to get to 100,000 followers on YouTube here. We're the little train that could. We're getting going. We're getting close to 41,000. So we're almost to the halfway point, but we can't get there without your help. So you got to let people know, hey, you got to catch this show. Breed's got he's back teaching live again, and love for you all to let people know about what we're doing every Thursday at noon Eastern. We're here helping you out and answering those questions. So tell your friends, make sure you subscribe to the channel, become part of the community. And any questions that you've got, any topics that you're interested in discussing, please get those emails to me and let us know what you want to talk about at anewbreedofgolf@michaelbreed.com. But in the meantime, thank you all so much for everything you're doing. We'll continue to do what we're doing, and we look forward to talking with you next week. There is no show on SiriusXM on Friday tomorrow because the Scottish Open is on, so you can hear the Scottish Open on SiriusXM in our spot. But we'll be back on Monday bringing you a new breed of golf on SiriusXM. In the meantime, thank you all so much. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk to you on Monday.